So last week I showed you how to replace the lift supports in this 2005 Pontiac GTO. But what happens if you're just so lazy that you just don't want to replace the lift supports in, say, the hood of a 2005 Pontiac GTO, and you just want to leave it open so you have access whenever you feel like it for 2 years? What do you do then? Well, in frame you will see the tool that I've used to accomplish that. This is a lift support clamp. It is currently clamped onto this lift support here. I'm taking it off. It has this pass-through here so you can put it around the inner shaft of this lift support. This hood comes down without it. These lift supports could be worse, but I don't want this slamming down in the middle of the night and me thinking that someone's breaking into the house. So I'm putting this on to make sure that doesn't happen. The one that I got comes with this green paper because you want to have this very visible so that you don't try to slam your hood shut with this in place. Because if it's on there just enough so that you don't damage this rod, then if you try to pull down on the hood, it will slide down there and put a big gouge scrape in that shaft. The inside of this is basically just a bolt, so you don't actually want to clamp down real hard on here unless you don't care about damaging that inner shaft. If you damage that inner shaft, it's not going to seal properly inside this tube, and you'll definitely cause it to not work. Usually you're using this when this doesn't work already, but do you know which one of these is not working? It's better to replace them in pairs anyway, but if you're just replacing one, you might end up damaging the one that's not broken, and then you have to replace two of them. This goes on either direction. You can put it on this way or this way. I like to put it on so that I can see what's going on. All right. So that's on pretty sturdy. I haven't torqued it down though because I don't want to damage that any further. One day I'll replace these lift supports and I won't have to use this tool to do this. And one day I will be able to close the hood and just leave it closed. So there's two things going on, but I'll still have this tool. So if I'm working on someone's car and their lift supports aren't working, I won't have to worry about this constantly falling down on my head. And that segues into who I think this tool will appeal to the most: mechanics. Mechanics deal with a lot of different types of customers, and some customers, they never pop the hood, and if their lift supports don't work, they don't care. That's the mechanic's problem. So this is the fix to the mechanic's problem of the lift supports don't work, and the customer is not going to buy new lift supports. Before you go to the description where there'll be a link where you can buy this, here's some last things to consider for DIY and mechanics. For DIY, is this going to be something that you're going to use on a regular basis? I think it's not going to be used all that often. Whenever you have a hood that won't stay up, there's something else you can use. You can just use a block of wood to prop it up. You just have to make sure that you don't knock into that block of wood because they can slip out pretty easily and the hood will definitely come down at that point. But these will stay in put a little easier. They're a little easier to lock in place than a piece of wood, and you can use it for any hood that has this type of lift support. Not all hoods do that though. A lot of hoods will have that prop rod that you pull off of the center of the car or off to the side of the car, and you lean it up, stick it on the hood, and then you don't have to use any kind of lift supports to support the hood. So if you're thinking, oh yeah, I could definitely use that when I'm working on my friend's cars, your friend's cars might be just 25% lift supports and 75% prop rods. And odds are a lot of these lift supports are probably still good. Now for mechanics, that's where I can see this tool coming into play way more often, because they're working on a bunch of cars, and the people that take their cars to mechanics, a vast majority of them don't really mess with the car under the hood that much. There are some people that will tinker on their cars, and then some jobs are kind of bigger and they'll take it to the mechanic to have that worked on, and they'll do oil changes and fluid changes, stuff like that. But if you are working on someone that like never lifts the hood, they're not going to know that these are bad, and like I said earlier, they're probably not going to care if these are bad. So when you're dealing with that, it's definitely nice to have one of those tools around so that you can just put it on there, tell the customer, hey, lift supports are bad, you can replace them, but I was able to fix the car with or without them. But if you're a mechanic, I don't need to tell you that. You're working on cars, you know how often these hoods aren't staying up when you're working on them, so make a call that works for you. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in the next Car Simplified video.